I think my favorite one was this one, which showed San Alman with 3 Aadhaar cards and triplicates, standing in the line, calling for the application of OpenAI.
I think rather than LLM, in India, we should focus on MEME creation. Okay.
Good evening and welcome to yet another edition of Thinkly Talks, a place where we are in conversation with some wonderful people from around the world. And today, we are back in Jasprit's community, PlurAlity Dialogues, after a week-long break. So Jasprit, great to have you back. Welcome.
Thank you so much. Sorry, last time, at this time, I was in a flight and then in places where I wasn't sure whether Zoom would work, so I had to miss last week, but great to be back.
Likewise. And so how was Dubai and how was your whole travel over the last, let's say, 7-10 days?
Well, when I tell people why I went to Dubai, they get mystified. I was speaking at something called the World Sugar Conference. It is, AI pops up at the most unlikeliest of places. And commodities and including sugar is actually a huge area for this technology. So it was interesting to kind of be amongst people who trade in billions of dollars and to see how AI can help them, among a few other things. So that's where I was there.
Fascinating. I think this is going to be the theme of the way things are going to roll out, right? As AI going to touch us in more and more places than we even imagine, right? So I think, Jasprit, today, we are back to a very, very interesting topic, which is really about AI, and the road to singularity. But like last time, let's just maybe spend around 8-10 minutes on what happened over the last 2 weeks since you went there in the last week, and then we can then go down this topic, right? So let me quickly share my screen, and here we go. So, so today really we just trying to touch upon, and I picked up 3. Like you said, there's so much happening in the world of AI. I just picked up 3 themes. So one is really about AI in jobs. Now, you and I had a wonderful chat, I think, on 26th of Feb, and then this was dropped on 27th of Feb, just literally the day after, where really the Klarna AI assistant, which is based on ChatGPT, it talked about how it's now in a position to replace, let's say, around 700 customer service agents, right? And these are things that we touched upon, but, just with any reactions, any thoughts?
Well, this Klarna thing was a bit of a bombshell. They said that, as it's written, 2/3 of conversations had moved to an AI bot based on an OpenAI technology. It was doing the work of an equivalent of 700 full-time agents. So that's 700 jobs lost in a way. Yeah. Very interestingly, 2 more statistics. It led to a 25% drop in repeat queries. So it was getting right the first time, many times, more than humans. And the average resolution time was 2 minutes rather than 11 minutes for humans.
Right.
And such more things. Frankly, first reaction was jaw-dropping, but Vivek, my second reaction was too good to be true.
Yeah.
Okay. And actually, if you and I didn't do this, but many people actually called up Klarna to get to the book to see what was. Well, a couple of things. One is Klarna is going IPO. Okay. Yeah. And so their stock is not doing, their numbers are not doing very well. And so one way to think about this is it was very timely, this kind of thing. But I think net, what turned out was that some of it was true, okay, but a lot of it was kind of, a lot of made-up figures in some sense, okay?
Right.
Because they kind of made it up in very clever ways. But whatever, even if, frankly, half of this is true, that's an amazing scale use case that we have seen. And yes, it does mean that contact center agents should be a little scared. Last thing, Vivek, I would say is that when we did our jobs discussion, I think I did talk about the fact that 3 areas, contact centers, creative arts, and software engineering programmers. I think those are the 3 areas where there will be maximum impact. And this is clearly one of them.
Yeah. What a paradox. I mean, like we've always seen that the people who are in all the other industrial, what should I say, revolution, is the people at the bottom of the pyramid who seem to be getting impacted. This time it's really coming after the creators, right? So to say.
Yeah.
So
it's a cognitive technology. So
right, absolutely. Right. And in fact, when you're talking about the IPO, it reminded me of the whole, the boom that happened towards the late 80s and early 90s, right? Because every time somebody announced that, they're going for a ERP or they're going for I2 supply chain, the stock ticker would just run up a bit, right? Just a simple announcement. And I guess we're just seeing a replay of that happening with AI, right?
Yeah.
But moving along, I think something that was very interesting that kind of came up around 2 weeks back was the announcement of the India's AI regulation. It came up first in the form of advisory, and then there was a whole lot of confusion whether this was meant that whether this would really be targeted at startups, whether it would really mean eventually a regulation. So I think there was a lot of confusion around that, right? And in fact, there was an interesting tweet by Aaron Levy, who's the CEO of Box. He said, this is the reason why America will eventually win with AI, because rest of the world seems to be caught up in all kind of wrangles around that. And very interestingly, Jasprit, you had actually pointed this out, I think around 6 months back. When you talked about when the executive order of the US came on AI, you tweeted that watch the space as India and other countries will also roll this out, right? So some thoughts from you on that. That would be great.
Sure. Look, I don't think this was a thought out decision. I think this was clearly a knee-jerk decision because of certain slanderous, if I may say so, or
positive,
not very positive comments on the Prime Minister by Gemini.
That's right.
Which, as you know, I mean, it's a large language model, so it will pick up stuff from the web, etc. And it was more of a knee-jerk thing, combined with the fact that elections are coming and the fear of deepfakes, etc. And the fact that it was knee-jerk was very apparent because, there was a pullback, a couple of days later. And my comment in this, in fact, the Economic Times or one of these newspapers, was that, we definitely need guardrails and guidelines and regulation, but it has to be proactive, not reactive. So you need to tell people, look, this is what you can do, this is what you can't do. And so people who are building the models will build it that way. China is doing that. Now, whether their guidelines are right or wrong is up for debate. But they have clearly laid out, you can do this, you cannot do this. And so their models are being built. But to build a model and then send it for checking, it is not what it, I mean, the amount of money and compute and resources and time it takes to build these models, no one is going to build a model if someone is going to check on it. So, and what I said was that if they do a proactive policy, in fact, it will be very welcome. It will be amongst the first in the world, and it needs to be. But a reactive one, no. And I think that's what there was a pullback, and I don't think it's really going to be enforced, in my opinion.
Right. I think also a lot of time what they do is they test the waters by just throwing something out there, seeing the reaction. It's sometimes it may not be as what should I say, casual as you think it might be. But yeah, I mean, we'll have to see how this pans out. But as always, I think any of this thing leads to some amazing memes, and I think my favorite one was this one, which showed Sam Altman with 3 Aadhaar cards and triplicates, standing in a line, filing for the application of OpenAI. So,
I think rather than LLM, in India, we should focus on MEME creation. Okay. We are very good at creating memes. And this one had some good ones. I did see this one. This is very cool.
And then, of course, last week, I mean, you can't have a week go by without Elon and, of course, Sam Altman being at the center of this. And this is when, you had, OpenAI, Elon was really, suing OpenAI out there, and Altman, and I think Microsoft also, right? Obviously, the whole thing is quite interesting because his biggest contention is the fact that here you have, a model which was initially supposed to be for profit. So you kind of get all these tax dollars, pre-tax dollars that are come in the form of donations, and then you suddenly decide to make the company for profit, right? So Elon had this whole issue with that, and there obviously were some more mails dropped by OpenAI shortly after that, saying that actually Elon himself wanted to kind of make this a for-profit company because the amount of billions of dollars that he anticipated might be required would just not be enough. So, Jasprit, any thoughts on these?
Vivek, would love to know yours also, but it's again one of those things. When Elon brought out this lawsuit, he's been threatening to do that for a while now. And when he did that, I think the sympathies lay with him. Because clearly, I mean, OpenAI was created as one, open. So, they no longer now disclose their models, which they said they would. And 2, non-profit, which it clearly isn't at this point of time. And so, he said that, I've just given charity, it was just like, whatever. And, So the sympathies lay with him. But when OpenAI released the entire mail trails with Elon Musk and very powerful people writing it, I mean, Sam Altman
Right.
writing, Ted Bachman writing it, very important, very interestingly, Ilya Sutskever, who's supposed to be a Musk confidant and, was
Right.
recruited,
Right.
also in, writing that and writing some mails to him, which clearly showed two things. One, that Elon himself was in agreement that it will require billions of dollars and therefore the structure would need to be changed. And two, that the definition of open is not really open as in the algorithm is open for everyone or it's
Right.
open source, but it's open to be used by everyone in the world. I think he was caught wrong-footed on that. And then obviously what you have just put here in terms of the Tesla part and taking control part. And he therefore reverted back to typical Elon, and he's now trying to squirm his way out by saying that if OpenAI changes its name to Closed AI, I will drop the suit, the lawsuit. I mean, much like, frankly, our earlier discussion of the announcement of, check your LLM. I think this also be a big damp squib. But I think as a meta point, Vivek, I think all this, AI is not only becoming a powerful technology, but all of these, these tech bros acting in this way is actually becoming quite a lot of entertainment for the world. Okay. It's not just tech now. There's so much of, and Elon, in fact, said in a very famous interview to the BBC, when BBC asked him, why do you do this and why do you do that or whatever, he said, aren't you being entertained? Just sad, but we're becoming an entertainment economy. So
right. I agree. And I think again the memes. I mean, I think we have to be living in a simulation when billionaires fight with each other using memes, and this is one of them that actually shows. He's being pulled over and he's saying that's an old photo because that's OpenAI. It's now Closed AI, right? But I think obviously, I think this is going to be picked up by SEC and other guys because I think there have been some implication on taxation and all that stuff. I think, which anyways for the billionaires to sit around and figure it out.